That's 12 extra days of food at no extra cost. That's nearly 2 weeks of extra food, free, to keep your family secure. Plus, free shipping. Order by 3 p.m. for same-day shipping. All kits deliver 2,000 calories per day of easy-to-prepare meals with a shelf life up to 25 years. These kits that have been rated 4.8 out of 5 stars by tens of thousands of folks like you. When the next crisis hits, you'll be ready. Stock up now at MyPatriotSupply.com before this deal disappears. Go to MyPatriotSupply.com for your 4-week emergency food supply and 4 free extra food kits. MyPatriotSupply.com.
Hey parents, you don't need the latest gizmo, slang, or clothes to be a perfect parent, because kids in foster care don't need perfection. They need you. For more information on how you can adopt, go to adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt Us Kids, and the Ad Council.
You're tuned in to Money Matters Boston, 1120 AM WBNW. This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275CM FM. Concord, Boston, the Money Matters Radio Network.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
New Englanders love the Caribbean, and now there's a Caribbean travel channel available for you to learn all about Caribbean culture while you're planning your next trip to your favorite island. The TravelShareIt.com marketplace is loaded with information about the arts, festivals, food, and music throughout the Caribbean, and is an interactive website featuring daily travel deals to any island of your choice. Book your next Caribbean vacation on the most comprehensive travel channel for the islands, TravelShareIt.com. That's TravelShareIt.com.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We focus on the people returning from service, not their specific illness or injury. Our number one goal is to make sure our veterans have the necessary services they need, be it physical, emotional, or financial, so that their transition can be seamless. You can help our great American heroes as well by making a donation today by visiting dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
As a busy mom, my to-do list is full.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
Visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
Did you outgrow your timeshare and now you want out? But you can't. You can't sell it, and you can't get out of the contract. Imagine trying to get out of your mortgage. That's what a timeshare is. You can't just call up the bank and say, I don't want to pay it anymore. But we may be able to help you do just that. Listen, a timeshare maybe for you once was a great thing, but now you don't use it much. And they are not easy to get rid of. Plus, you do have to pay for it every month. Qualified timeshare owners can get out of their contract legally and permanently without ruining your credit or even filing bankruptcy. And imagine, no more mortgage payment or fees. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline qualification line now. It's free to learn more.
800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. That's 800-455-7967. Paid for by Timeshare Defense.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutsky from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange quick tip of the day. And today we're talking about your brand new guide, Todd, how to leave assets to your beneficiaries. Todd, how can you ensure that your kids' inheritance can be protected from future divorces?
Well, estate planning, as you know, does things like avoid probate, protect assets from nursing homes, and reduce taxes. But you know what? The family behind the estate plan can be more important. out. And so the trusts live on after you die, and you can have language in there that divides the assets to the children, but doesn't just pay it out, right? It holds it in trust for them and allows them to be trustee, but just not take it. In order to get it, they have an independent trustee that can say yes or no. And that way, by not owning the asset, if they get divorced down the line after you're dead and the other side says, hey, I want half of what's in that trust, you're going to say, that's great, but you have to ask the independent trustee. So it's now not going to be available to you. And more than just the ability to say no, it's the fact that you don't own it. So if you don't own it, it's not a marital asset to begin with, so it should not be even subject to the divorce. So learning how your trust works after you die can oftentimes be more important than when you're living, and it does more for you after you die than when you're living sometimes.
The estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have been helping families like yours for more than 30 years, and they've written a brand new guide called How to Leave Assets to Your Beneficiaries. To get your free copy of this comprehensive guide that will help you determine the best way to leave assets to your family, simply call 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699, or you can request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Mike Armstrong and Marc Fandetti. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Mike Armstrong and Marc Fandetti.
Good morning. Happy April. I didn't prepare any April Fool's pranks for the radio today.
They're not allowed, so you don't have to worry about it.
Well, I mean, you can't do alien invasion type April Fool's pranks, but I'm sure I could get away with something live on radio.
Nope, I won't allow it.
Well, in either case, my method this morning was the good old food coloring on the kids' toothbrushes, and that went off very well.
Why?
Because it dyes your mouth whatever color you use the food coloring.
So, freak your children out. Okay, got it.
Yeah, my kid. No, I did it to them, not on myself.
No, I know.
Okay, just so we're on the same
look
page.
in the mirror. Yeah.
They all had to go to school today with blue teeth. It was kind of fun.
Okay. Very good.
So I got my April Fool's prank out of the way
What the heck
anyway.
is wrong with you?
A lot of things, Mark. A lot of things.
Glutton for punishment. Yeah, usually I do the saran wrap on the toilets, but that's just a prank on myself because my kids don't clean anything. So, yeah. Anyway, moving on here. We're entering the first day of the second quarter after a pretty abysmal stock market performance for the first quarter of the year, as Wall Street Journal and Bloomberg and everybody else is quick to point out it was the worst quarter since 2022 in equity markets, especially in the NASDAQ. To be clear, worst quarter since 2022 is not really saying much in the grand scheme of markets, right? Like,
so what?
The S&P 500 was down 4.5%.
Don't get me wrong. I wrote that in our little update.
Yeah, it's catchy.
But so what?
It's catchy.
You gotta write something.
Worst quarter in 3 years. It does certainly catch the headlines.
When you have to comment every day, you got to write something or say something.
That's the answer here, and so the conjecture begins about tomorrow and Liberation Day or D-Day in tariffs as it's being described. Mark's going to get very frustrated this episode. So
what are we being? Never mind. It doesn't. Pointless to ask.
We are being liberated from the unfair trade policies of our so-called allies. That's probably what the answer is, Mark, so just deal with it. The questions to me, First of all, for all of the people out there that are listening, investing, trying to digest and figure out what is going to come next, just stop. Just don't bother. I'm not saying don't listen. I'm just saying don't try and guess what the president and his administration are trying to do on trade policy ahead of time, because it is not working, I think, is my main message that we've been trying to deliver here over the last few weeks. For some evidence in that front, on Sunday of last weekend, so a week ago Sunday, the Wall Street Journal reported, according to sources inside the White House, that there were unlikely to be any sector-specific tariffs coming from the Trump administration. 3 days later, the Trump administration rolled out the most significant auto tariffs that we've probably ever seen in the United States. So that was wrong. That same day, President Trump alluded to the idea that, his Liberation Day this week that comes tomorrow was going to not be quite as bad as some media outlets were thinking, and that everybody was going to be surprised by it. Equity markets got a little bit excited about that. Then over the weekend of this weekend, he said, no, it's going to affect just about every country. It's not just going to be some small group of 10 to 15 nations. We're going big. So my point with all of this is that the news has been really volatile on this front, and anybody that's tried to make a buck on day trading this stuff, I would imagine has gotten absolutely demolished on the news. A few things, equity markets are not quite 10% off their highs. We said that the S&P, saw its worst quarter since 2022, which is true. It was still only down like 4.6%. The NASDAQ fared worse, down about 8.3% in the first quarter. I think, grand scheme of things, that's not anything that I lose sleep about. The S&P. Do you lose sleep about the S&P losing 4.6% in 3 months?
In a vacuum?
In a vacuum,
no.
Yeah. I know that there are other reasons to be, concerned about what that might happen next here, but in a vacuum...
That's a little like saying, don't worry about that mole. But you said it was malignant. Well,
right.
Yeah, but would you normally worry about a mole?
Right.
Well, no, but this one you said was malignant. So I don't know, Mike. I guess I have a problem
Fair
with
enough.
the premise, but I know what you're getting at.
I think the point that I would make was it'd be, quite frankly, if the tariffs that are being threatened go and stay into place for a long period of time, I would honestly expect equity markets to perform a heck of a lot worse than what they have done so far. And so I think there are still a lot of investors that are still doubting the likelihood of these implementation of tariffs long term. And, I'm one of them. I'm not sure that they're going to be here long term. But that is one of my takeaways, is there is still some relentless optimism. See markets yesterday, which started off the day down more than 1%, NASDAQ off more than 2%, and generally finished positive for the day.
There's a lot of inertia in the U.S. economy. It's going to be hard. They're trying to fundamentally restructure it, which is an enormous gamble. The Soviets tried it. It didn't work out well. I'm not saying tens of millions will die here of famine.
No.
But typically when big economies try to do an abrupt kind of 180, it doesn't work out well. It's not. Some have said that that's the sort of purpose of this. This is part of a grander scheme to return the U.S. to the halcyon days of the 19th century or something like that. I don't know, Mike. Is the purpose to raise revenue? Is the purpose to exclude exports and bring manufacturing jobs here? Those two things are absolutely exclusive. If tariffs work, people will shift consumption to domestic goods, which may not, by the way, be cheaper, in which case they will not raise any revenue. And you can't, say, use them to offset, to pay
Tax
for
cuts.
income tax elimination or something like that. So the stated purposes are intention or exclusive or contradictory, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what the objective is. If you're just mad because we import more than we export, you can blame that on the fact that we don't save enough. That's the flip side of us being an attractive investment venue. That's a bit of a technical concept that I won't elaborate on right now, but trust me, it holds. There are better ways. If you're angry at the trade deficit, there's a surefire way to reduce it. It's to, and this sounds counterintuitive, but it's ironclad, increase our savings rate. And that could mean the government spending less too, which they're trying to do, but I've never heard any policymaker connect those two things, at least not recently.
Here would be my point for tomorrow. The administration is very clearly on the path of higher trade barriers. I don't think there's really any debate or diverting from that path. And so what I would like to hear, I don't know that I will, but what I would like to hear, and Oren Cass, who's clearly influencing a lot of this administration, is a very much non-mainstream economist who has been promoting trade barriers.
I don't think he's an economist. I think he got an MBA somewhere.
Did he? Okay. In any case, he's close to the administration is being followed significantly here. And where does he work now? He's at he's at some think tank. His point is with these tariffs, if you're going to use them, there can be several purposes for them. One of which could be opposing countries like China, who we think are strategically important for us to oppose and change their influential patterns. Another might be to break down other countries' trade barriers and get and get a more open system of trade. By his own self-admission, you're not really seeing any of that right now. And while I might not be really in favor of tariffs as a system to kind of guide the economy, this administration is. And so my hope is that if they're going to use them, there is more clarity about what the purpose is. Because so far, I think that's been the single biggest frustration from businesses and other countries like Canada, some of our closest trade partners and allies, is you're imposing these. The car ones were actually pretty clear. Whether you agree or disagree, the car tariffs were pretty clear. We want to manufacture cars domestically, so we're imposing tariffs on all other vehicles. Okay,
well, Mike,
got it.
Can we peel that back a layer, though? Why? Why automotive manufacturing? Why not some other industry?
I'm not saying I agree, but at least it was clear. Right? Like, at least there was very clear purpose behind them. We want to have more auto manufacturing jobs.
Is that the purpose, though, or is it rather to force Europe to open their markets? And this, by the way, may do nothing for the trade deficit, but let's put that aside. I've also heard that they are mad that Europe's markets are not more open to our cars.
Right. So I guess that would be my point, Mark, is we're going forth on this Liberation Day, and my question for the administration, which they have no need to answer because who might ask, is what sort of clarity are there to European countries, to Canada, to Mexico, to China, of, hey, this is the purpose of these, and this is the new operating agreement under which the United States is operating, rather than one day it's about fentanyl, one day it's about taxes, one day it's about this, that, or the other. If it remains that, then you've got a real problem, because then I think rather than Europe working to bring down trade barriers and set up a new system, the reaction is going to be, well, fine, if you're going to do it, we're going to do the same thing, and we're just going to continually accumulate new barriers to trade because there is no end outcome by which we can fix this problem. So in any case, it's kicking off tomorrow at a more significant degree as far as we know, and that's what I'll be looking for in all of this, is not only what are the new rules of the road, but what is the purpose behind these new rules, and how is it going to benefit Americans? That's what I'm trying to sort out from all this, and that's what I think has been distinctly lacking.
Like, unless somebody hits their head and has some kind of revelation in the next 24 hours, that ain't going to happen. We're going to hear a little preamble. For too long, these countries have been ripping us off. That ends. It's not going to be anything more high-minded or long-term than some vindictive statement about revenge for getting ripped off, and consequently we're going to apply these tariffs, which will probably all be removed within the next 3 to 5 days.
And the first part to me is fine. Like, if there's a vindictiveness because we want to stick it to Europe based on their own unfair trade practices, which there are some, right? Like, there are some unfair trade practices in Europe that I think are unreasonable. Then state that and say, great. And if we can, get to a point where there's free trade, then we can bring down those barriers and return to a position of trading freely. Because you know what? I'll go toe to toe with German auto manufacturers and delivering a good product to American citizens here in the United States with no trade barriers every single day. I don't think we need those in order to compete. Does anybody look at an American-made Toyota and say, wow, what a ripoff on that car? Like, no. You're able to make it here domestically at a pretty reasonable price, and nobody's upset about the quality. And so that would be my long-term hope. I'm with you. We have not gotten that to this point, and I'm hoping that it's also only been 2.5 months, that as time goes on, we start to get more of that clarity. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, I want to dive more into this issue that has been permeating the idea of economics over the last few years here, which is trade deficits, what causes them, what does it actually mean, and what the Trump administration seems to be targeting right now. That's next here on the Financial Exchange.
There's only one show that follows Wall Street's continued volatility. Keep it here all morning long on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. New Englanders love the Caribbean, and now there's a Caribbean travel channel available for you to learn all about Caribbean culture while you're planning your next trip to your favorite island. The TravelShareIt.com marketplace is loaded with information about the arts, festivals, food, and music throughout the Caribbean, and is an interactive website featuring daily travel deals to any island of your choice. Book your next Caribbean vacation on the most comprehensive travel channel for the islands, TravelShareIt.com. That's TravelShareIt.com.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We focus on the people returning from service, not their specific illness or injury. Our number one goal is to make sure our veterans have the necessary services they need, be it physical, emotional, or financial, so that their transition can be seamless. You can help our great American heroes as well by making a donation today by visiting dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Leaving assets to your beneficiaries is a critical piece of any estate plan. Cushing & Dolan, the experts in elder law, has written a new guide that may help ensure that your assets are protected for years to come, while helping you avoid unnecessary mistakes during your planning. As an example, the new federal estate tax exemption is nearly $14 million. That could lead to a larger inheritance for your family members, but still raises concerns. There are several strategies in this new guide that will help you learn how to make the right decisions about your distributions at the right time. Cushing & Dolan have been helping New England families for more than 30 years. Let them help you, too. Call 866-848-5699 and get their brand new guide called How to Leave Assets to Beneficiaries. That number again is 866-848-5699. Or you can request the guide online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Preparing for retirement can be agonizing and might actually feel like a full-time job. This is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Creating a budget that fits your goals and needs in retirement is one way to alleviate some of that stress. Our new guide is called How to Build a Retirement Budget, and it contains several strategies that may help you coordinate your assets in a way that allows you to enjoy financial peace in your retirement years. From understanding your income sources to setting up the proper withdrawal schedule, this guide can help you build a complete budget that covers all of your retirement needs. If you're at or near retirement age, give the Armstrong Advisory Group a call at 800-393-4001 and ask for our new guide today. That number again is 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide online at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Here at the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, we are committed to all students not only attending, but succeeding at school. Your presence is powerful. Share why you attend at doe.mass.edu.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
Let's talk LDL. AKA bad cholesterol. The higher your LDL cholesterol, the higher your risk of a heart attack or stroke. Your health matters. Know your number. Talk to your doctor and get your cholesterol checked. And learn how to help lower your LDL bad cholesterol. Because your health is in your hands. Find out more at heart.org/LDL.
Get up-to-the-minute market updates with Wall Street Watch, weekdays at 10:30, only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Mark, I want to talk about an economic boogeyman, the notorious trade deficit. I don't know if it's just because the word deficit's in there, and so it's people affiliate it with budget deficits, which I think are a much different and completely separate problem.
But related, though.
But
No,
related.
Savings, related through savings.
We've been running trade deficits in this country since, 1980, 1981?
Consistently since 1980, yeah.
So a good 45 years we've been running deficits. And they've been widening pretty significantly over
trend.
that 45-year time period. So there's a big trend there. I guess first things first, let's not try and dispel the boogeyman myth. Let's just start off with why deficits now more than in the past and where to go from there.
Okay, fine. It's not a coincidence that trade deficits started to get really big in the 1980s at the same time that budget deficits did, and at the same time that the personal savings rate fell. The trade deficit is a function of how much we save here, and that might sound counterintuitive. What do those two have to do with one another? They're directly related. When we buy and export, we send dollars abroad. Those dollars have to go somewhere. Those dollars end up coming back to us. People say you buy a German car, the example I used this morning internally. Those dollars are then used by the German seller to buy treasury bonds or to invest in other U.S. assets. And the fact of the matter is we've been a relatively attractive, relative to Europe and other developed countries, attractive investment venue for a very long time. That draws in investment dollars. Those dollars have to come from somewhere. They come from our trade deficit. If we saved more, both the federal
what do you mean by we? Like, what does that mean in particular?
It's an excellent question because I'm being a little fast and loose. If we as individuals saved more, if the personal savings level was higher, we could meet more of the demand for capital through our own savings here. If the federal government saved more, i.e. had less dis-savings, more accurately, had a smaller deficit, our trade deficit would necessarily be smaller. That is not intuitive. The first time I heard it, it was in an you only get this in international economics. Not only do you have to take an economics course, you have to take an international economics course because they don't teach this in like macro, micro. It's obscure for most people. I remember having a lot of these discussions in 1993 when NAFTA was happening. I happened to be in college at the time, and it was a hot topic. And it's hard to get across to someone who's never, because I was on the other side of the table. Explain to me why Massachusetts should trade with Rhode Island. Why do we let Rhode Island workers in? Now, we're in Massachusetts, so I'm being Massachusetts-centric.
Sure.
Part of our audience, I don't think they join us for half hours from Rhode Island, so I'll pick on them.
Nice.
Why should I buy anything made in Rhode Island? Why wouldn't I support Massachusetts only? Well, the short answer is there are some things that Rhode Island does more efficiently, or Maine, or New Hampshire, and others that Massachusetts does more efficiently. New Hampshire may ship us durable goods. We ship them financial services or tech support. That's because we do one relatively more efficiently. And now I'm moving from why there's a trade deficit to gains from trade. These two things are related. And I got to tell you, Mike, these are not intuitive concepts. You really got to think about them. But once you do, you realize that the trade deficit is not inherently bad, as you said, nor is it inherently good. It follows from the level of capital opportunities we have here, the number of capital opportunities for investment, and how much we save.
I do find that I have a tougher time calling the trade deficit good or bad. I have an easier time calling the United States debt bad.
Well, if it's not bad when it's used to win World War II, it's not bad when it's used to fight a recession. It's bad when you are in economic recovery, as we have been for the past few years, and you're running huge structural deficits, as we've been doing now, really for a generation, even in economic good times.
So, as I've been saying many, many times before, we have not seen the level of tariffs that are being discussed right now since the 1940s. And so anybody telling you that they know how it's going to play out in markets, the financial, currencies, any of that stuff, I think is lying to you because nobody has any real idea. Nobody's been investing in the 1940s that's still alive today. But one of the things that catches my eye about all this is if you are implementing these trade barriers, I think it's been generally accepted and most people understand that prices likely go up in those scenarios. But the downstream effects of this I don't think have been really figured out or spelled out. And one of them that comes to mind is less foreign investment into the United States. And that could mean
higher
all sorts
interest
of
rates
things.
and a higher dollar, which
higher
in turn
interest rates
and a higher dollar,
right,
which in turn exacerbates the trade deficit.
Right.
So you're in this vicious circle at that point, which is why people are talking about the dangers of a stronger dollar attendant with trade restrictions and the forces that will, as a result, push up interest rates. All these things are connected, sometimes in very obscure and non-intuitive ways.
And that dollar dominance is a concerning one to me, right? If you suddenly have interest rates start creeping up on our massive amount of government debt because of less investment into the United States, less purchasing of treasuries, less purchasing of dollars because there's just no dollars for those foreign countries to go into here. That is a scenario that long-term becomes much more concerning. Wall Street Watch is next. Stay tuned, folks.
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @TFE Show. Breaking business news is always first, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Heads up, athletes, coaches, and parents. Play for life, not just points. Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, or HCM, is the leading cause of sudden cardiac death, especially in black athletes in sports like football or basketball. If you feel shortness of breath, chest pain, and fatigue, or have a family history of HCM, talk to your doctor. Don't let HCM bend you for good. Learn how to stay in the game at heart.org/HCM student athlete. Your heart, your health, your move.
Leaving assets to your beneficiaries is a critical piece of any estate plan. Cushing & Dolan, the experts in elder law, has written a new guide that may help ensure that your assets are protected for years to come, while helping you avoid unnecessary mistakes during your planning. As an example, the new federal estate tax exemption is nearly $14 million. That could lead to a larger inheritance for your family members, but still raises concerns. There are several strategies in this new guide that will help you learn how to make the right decisions about your distributions at the right time. Cushing & Dolan have been helping New England families for more than 30 years. Let them help you, too. Call 866-848-5699 and get their brand new guide called How to Leave Assets to Beneficiaries. That number again is 866-848-5699. Or you can request the guide online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts has helped me and countless others adjust to civilian life through a variety of incredible programs. Through our local Veterans Assistance Program, we provide necessary services to veterans and their communities, such as food shopping, landscaping, and companionship, but we need your support. You can help by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we have a guide available this month titled How to Build a Retirement Budget. Mike, one of the rules of thumb that gets tossed around is, hey, just withdraw 4% of your portfolio each year and you'll be fine. Is that true still?
It can be, but it also leads to some confusing conversations because that 4% rule, one, is dependent on a very specific asset allocation that was recommended by the person that created it. And two, a lot of those things have changed over time and doesn't really account for the fluctuations that every retiree sees, right? You might retire and not start Social Security right away, in which case your withdrawals could be higher for a period of time.
What about on the other side of the ledger when you look at expenses? A lot of people say, well, I expect my expenses to go down. Maybe I only need 70 to 80% of my pre-retirement income.
Yeah, I mean, this one makes sense, right? Like, you're right now making money. You might be putting money into your 401k, paying FICA taxes that you won't in retirement. But this one especially, I have to say, varies a lot from person to person. That's 70 to 80% of pre-retirement income. And think about it this way, right? Do I still have a mortgage? Might that mortgage get paid off at some point in my retirement? What sort of debts do I have? Am I going to downsize to one car? Are we going to need both? What sort of travel am I planning on? And so that 70 to 80% rule can be a good starting point, but really you need to start with the budget.
Our guide is titled How to Build a Retirement Budget, and the way to request it is by calling 800-393-4001. That number again is 800-393-4001 to request our latest guide, How to Build a Retirement Budget.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Time now for Wall Street Watch. A complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Markets are kicking off the second quarter in negative territory as investors eagerly await President Trump's tariff policy rollout tomorrow afternoon. A report from the Washington Post this morning said that the Trump administration is considering implementing tariffs of about 20% to most imports into the U.S. At the moment, the Dow is down by about 1% or 389 points. S&P 500 down by 0.2% or 35 points. And the NASDAQ is down by about 0.4% or 73 points. Russell 2000 down over 1% or 23 points. 10-year Treasury yield down by 10 basis points this morning at 4.14%. And crude oil up about 0.5% higher, trading just below $72 a barrel. Johnson & Johnson shares down by over 4% after a judge dismissed the pharmaceutical company's third attempt to resolve its mass talcum powder liabilities through Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Meanwhile, shares in PVH surging by over 16% after the parent company to Calvin Klein and Tommy Hilfiger posted stronger than expected fourth quarter earnings. Elsewhere, shares in XPeng are up by 0.2% after the Chinese EV maker said it delivered 33,205 vehicles last month, or an increase of more than 260% from the same month a year ago. Several airline stocks are seeing modest losses on the day following downgrades by Jefferies to underperform. American Airlines down by 4%, Delta down by 5%, and Southwest down by just over 3%. Newsmax jumping another 83%. I just turned on my mic. I don't know why. Yeah, thanks. Newsmax up another 83% after the cable news network soared more than 700% yesterday in its public debut on the New York Stock Exchange. And SoftBank agreed to lead a funding round of up to $40 billion in a subsidiary of OpenAI, valuing the ChatGPT maker at $300 billion. I'm Tucker Sullivan. That's Wall Street Watch.
We are taking a look at the calendar ahead here, and there's a number of different reports on the economy coming out this week. All of them, frankly, kind of fall down when compared to the announcements we're going to get tomorrow on tariffs. But nonetheless, we'll be getting some updates on the state of the labor market. We already got one this morning with the job opening survey. That's the JOLTS report that we report on once a month. Friday of this week, we'll get the all-important jobs report. So that comes out at 8:30 a.m. on Friday and is the one that's traditionally looked at to get a fuller sense of the state of the employment situation in the United States. Thursday of this week, we'll receive initial jobless claims. Again, if you're trying to take a look at, hey, are layoffs starting to tick up in any meaningful way, you will find it there first, as that's the weekly jobless claims number. Important caveat there, when we talk about government job cuts, they actually file for unemployment under a separate system. So as far as I know, those cuts don't actually make it into the weekly jobless claims. Rather.
Yeah, all the knock-on stuff we'll see.
Right. That would be, I think, the more important part. When I think about government job cuts, honestly, I'm not really worried about that in and of itself driving up the unemployment rate. I think about the cuts at places like Harvard, at MGH, at all sorts of publicly funded institutions that are also looking at potential, I know Harvard, for instance, looking at a hiring freeze and other places as well, potentially looking at that depending on where the government funding goes. Those will show up in initial jobless claims if they start to. But to this point, layoffs have not been something that I've been hearing a lot about.
No, and because the job market generally, there are some exceptions to this, but generally it's a lagging indicator.
Yeah, last thing to fall.
Right. When we get it, for the most part, when we get a data point on the job market, it usually reflects decisions made weeks, months before the data is released, unlike some of the more timely, that is more regularly updated stuff like the stock market, which, although an imperfect one, it's viewed as a leading indicator. Yeah. So not all of the things that we talk about, and we do have to talk about them all, but they're not all equal. Some are the equivalent of looking in the rearview mirror, others potentially more forward-looking. I'm far more worried about the surveys, which some poo-poo, I wouldn't, because of confirming evidence in equities and more recently in spending, as I'm sure you and Chuck have talked about.
Not to mention, too, I mean, if you are a private organization, a private company that employs people, laying them off is kind of one of your last resorts. Generally speaking, unless you're just the most generous business owner out there, you're not trying to employ a bunch of extra people that you do not need. That doesn't make you terribly competitive in your space. Instead, you try and run in a lean, efficient organization. And if you have to lay people off, it's usually not because, you just have extra people hanging around. It's a last resort to a business downturn. And so what you'll frequently see is things other than layoffs taking place in order to cut costs, like, hey, we are pausing all business travel, or, no conferences this year, or the 401k match is taking a hit this year, or bonuses are getting affected this year as a result of a business downturn. One of the last things to go is, hey, we're doing layoffs with a portion of our workforce because, quite frankly, they're inefficient and expensive. You end up firing more people or people that you likely still need but can't afford, and you end up having to pay things like severance and face potential lawsuits. It's usually an object of last resort.
And when the economy inevitably starts to expand again, you need to probably fill the position again, which is a lot more expensive than keeping somebody on board even if they're not fully utilized.
So to this point, unemployment rate has stayed remarkably steady. We're sitting at 4.1%, which is, yes, significantly higher than the all-time, or not all-time, but significant low we got in 2023. I think March of 2024 might have been down at 3.4%. I need to refresh my memory on that. But for context here, 4.1% is a very, very low unemployment rate. I don't think we even ever got down below 5% in the time between the dot-com bubble and the Great Recession. Right, so like unemployment going into the Great Recession was significantly higher than it is now, and I would think most people would describe 2006 as a pretty darn good economy. What did we receive this morning from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, that monthly JOLTS report that comes out, where we looked at this in particular was back in 2022 when we were seeing high inflation. There was that statistic that kept getting thrown out. Look, there's 2 jobs open for every 1 person looking for work. Of course, wages are going up. Of course, we're seeing bonuses getting paid to McDonald's workers. Like, this is helping explain the phenomenon at the moment. What did we see from this report this morning?
Status quo, Mike, is the bottom line. Number of job openings, I'll just quote here from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, was little changed. They love this phrase, little changed, at 7.6 million job openings in February. Over the month, they say hires, total separations held at blah, blah, blah. I don't need to go through every number. The bottom line is it's a status quo report. Some evidence of easing, perhaps, in the exceptionally tight labor market conditions we saw over the last couple of years. There is a modest downward trend in job openings. The question is, does it matter? Does this statistic help us forecast? I think most people are interested, at least I am. Does this help us forecast inflation? Is it a good measure of slack or tightness in the economy? During the COVID economy, and before too, in about the decade before, this became a popular measure, variable, more specifically, for economists to include in their inflation forecasting models. It started to do a good job, better than the unemployment rate. When you put both in your model, the unemployment rate became superfluous. So people started to gravitate toward this measure as researchers said, hey, this helps us forecast. That relationship now, as many do, it's sort of broken down. Wouldn't surprise me if in 3 to 5 years nobody cared about JOLTS anymore, because relationships among economic variables, unfortunately, are not stable.
They are ever changing. I think one thing it does seem to, I guess, confirm, and if you've spoken to somebody that's out of a job right now, or maybe a graduating senior from a local university you've been chatting with, the narrative that I continue to hear is that it's a very challenging market for that segment of the population. There are a lot of companies that are on hiring freezes around here. There are a number of companies that are just not looking to make a hire without a high level of experience. I suspect that is purely because of business uncertainty. There's also been conjecture around the role of artificial intelligence impacting younger persons' jobs, but I haven't seen enough evidence to support that theory that, hey, AI is cutting investment banking jobs or entry-level accounting jobs, for example. Maybe it's happening, but to this point, I don't think there's enough evidence to confirm it.
No,
but
just anecdotes.
Yeah.
And some investment managers say they're now using software to help them read the introductory materials sent to them by a prospective, sent to them by a firm in which they're considering making, or an investment in which they're considering making an investment.
Yeah.
Some are using that, but you still need a human being to sort through much of it.
I don't think
Just
you were on
not
the
as
show
many.
when I talked about this, but my first job at this company, Armstrong Advisory Group, 12 years ago, was basically following people around and taking notes for them. That job is almost entirely unnecessary in the days of artificial intelligence, right? If you want to use an AI note-taking tool, whether you're at a doctor's office, whether you're in a financial advisor's office, you can generally do so, and it's probably going to do very nearly as good a job as I once did as a 20, I don't know how old I was when I started doing that, 25 maybe, or nearly as, or perhaps even better than I could have by transcribing every word. So there are some jobs that I do believe are on their way out, that one being a good example of them. But yeah, I just don't think we've seen any evidence of that really taking grip in the labor market yet. So more status quo from this jobs report, the JOLTS report. Companies are not massively hiring, nor are they massively firing, and employees are doing a bit of the same. They're not jumping ship for that new job and are kind of settling in, seems to be the message from this report. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, Sweden's approach to Social Security. What did they get right? What did they get wrong? And can it be applied here in the United States? That's next.
Text us 617-362-1385 with your comments and questions about today's show, and let us know what you think about the stories we're covering. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Leaving assets to your beneficiaries is a critical piece of any estate plan. Cushing & Dolan, the experts in elder law, has written a new guide that may help ensure that your assets are protected for years to come, while helping you avoid unnecessary mistakes during your planning. As an example, the new federal estate tax exemption is nearly $14 million. That could lead to a larger inheritance for your family members, but still raises concerns. There are several strategies in this new guide that will help you learn how to make the right decisions about your distributions at the right time. Cushing & Dolan have been helping New England families for more than 30 years. Let them help you, too. Call 866-848-5699 and get their brand new guide called How to Leave Assets to Beneficiaries. That number again is 866-848-5699. Or you can request the guide online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations, the United States Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next vacation. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway, a long weekend with friends, or a family vacation, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John have everything you need to enjoy that special time away from home. Take advantage of a variety of incredible promotions that are available right now. Go to visitusvi.com/promotions, where you'll find the details about all of these amazing experiences, including a stay at the Divi Carina Bay All-Inclusive Beach Resort and Casino on St. Croix. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Don't miss your chance to enjoy America's Caribbean paradise, the United States Virgin Islands. Head to visitusvi.com/promotions for more information and to book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com/promotions.
Retirement planning is complicated enough without having a formal budget to help you maintain your lifestyle during your later years. This is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Our new guide called How to Build a Retirement Budget was written specifically for this purpose. Our goal is to help take your financial concerns out of your retirement years. There are numerous issues to deal with when creating a retirement budget. Everything from understanding where your income will come from, to setting up a proper withdrawal strategy, to being able to remain flexible as market conditions change. This new guide offers structural guidance that may alleviate the pressures of creating your budget. You can request your copy right now by calling 800-393-4001 and ask for our new guide today. Once again, that number, 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
If you missed any of today's show, catch up whenever you want on our YouTube page. Find daily show segments and full shows. Just go to youtube.com and search for The Financial Exchange. This is your home for breaking business and financial news. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This segment of the Financial Exchange is brought to you in part by the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Tourism. The U.S. Virgin Islands are St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John, and they're the perfect place to take your next vacation. Enjoy spectacular beaches, world-class cuisine, and a wide variety of water sports. Don't miss your chance to visit America's Caribbean paradise, the United States Virgin Islands. Go to visitusvi.com for more information and to book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
Years ago, Sweden faced a similar problem to what we do here in the United States, which was, hey, our population of working class Swedes is not growing fast enough to support our future retirees. I almost said Americans, which was not what they are. And so we need to do something differently. And what they did seemingly worked pretty well. They took a portion of the payroll tax, which right now is your FICA, the portion of your income that goes towards Social Security. Your employer also contributes an equal amount. And they started putting it into a government-sponsored basically investment pension plan. So you could go in and choose one of 5 different options. And quite frankly, it sounds very similar to the thrift savings plan, the TSP here in the United States for federal employees. If anybody is familiar with that that's listening, there's like 5 options. They are incredibly cheap, and they're just broad-based investment options for you. And the point was made that, hey, that grew the fund fast enough in order to keep pace with the problems that the pension system was facing. And, it's quasi-privatization of the Swedish pension system, which I know a lot of Americans are afraid of. But generally, I don't think that I'm opposed to this idea. What I am opposed to is pretending that it is going to fix our problems with our Social Security system here in the United States, because we're starting way too late. Had somebody dreamed up this idea 40 years ago, maybe we would have been okay here to say, yeah, the portion that's gone into that private stock market-based pension system more than makes up for the losses we are seeing now in the deficits in the trust fund. But we didn't do that, and instead we are staring down a Social Security issue like 5 years, 8 years
Does everybody have amnesia, or is everybody just under 45 now? Let me read you a press release from the White House in 2005.
Please.
George W. W. Bush. As we fix Social Security, we must make it a better deal for our younger workers by allowing them to put part of their payroll taxes in personal accounts. This would be entirely voluntary. The money would go into a conservative mix, et cetera, et cetera. My point is, 20 years ago,
not a new idea.
Not ancient history, would have been actually a very difficult time because 2 years later, markets crashed.
Yeah, your money would have lost a ton of money.
So my point is, this was proposed. This trial balloon didn't even get like 5 feet off the ground. It got shredded, dead on arrival.
Yep.
So the government guarantee associated with every dollar of Social Security is sacrosanct, was the political lesson. This is never going to happen until Social Security, unfortunately, is unable to pay out benefits at all, and they have to introduce something to placate people running at Washington with pitchforks.
And by the way, then it's too late. Again, you could do this today,
This is
right?
Not,
like
it's
if
not
you
a
started,
fix, Mike. It's not a fix.
If you started now taking a portion of Social Security payroll taxes and instead saying, forget about a TSP, forget about self-directed, it's all run by somebody in the government who just puts it all into the stock market and index fund and hopes that it goes well. You've only got like 7 years. There's not enough time to make up for the lost
No one's maintaining
portion
that this
here.
is
this guy fails to mention it in a 3-page article.
I don't know
about
how you don't
Social
mention
Security.
the Bush proposal and what happened to it. That's why I
poo-pooed it. I'm with you.
No, I'm not poo-pooing it. I like it. I'm pointing out that it was proposed to the highest level.
Poo-pooing the article, not the solution.
I'm disappointed in the lack of resourcefulness on the part of the author who didn't bother to Google it.
So the fact of the matter remains that regardless of solutions like this, we face an immense Social Security problem that is looming out here within the next decade. It does not seem to be getting addressed in any serious fashion. Instead, we're cutting around the edges, such as the employees, which do not contribute to the trust fund or detract from the trust fund whatsoever. And I think there are millions of Americans who are frankly quite concerned and disappointed about where this is going. If you have questions about your own Social Security benefits, how they're going to work in your retirement, and the risk of them all being cut by 20% in a decade, which, to be fair, I've said publicly and I still feel is unlikely to happen in the way that it's being described. I think that they will come up with a fix. But if you have questions along those lines and you're trying to sort them through and what it means for you, maybe you're in your mid-50s and are staring this down and quite concerned about it, call us at the Armstrong Advisory Group, 800-393-4001. Free consultations across New England, as you've heard, 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Mark, the free ride for borrowers on buy now, pay later service, Klarna or Affirm, one of the big ones out there. They are now going to begin reporting these mini loans to major credit reporting agency Experian. And so we had brought this up as kind of silly that things like non-payments of student loans, non-payments of healthcare related debt, or non-payments of loans like this to companies Affirm to help you buy burritos weren't getting paid to credit monitoring agencies. They will now begin getting reported, and so I'm sure that there are more than a handful of young Americans who use this service who are going to see their credit scores take a big hit because of all of it. Not only just because you have defaulted on it, which that would be a big problem, but even using it will count
this
towards
adds to the number of open accounts and the amount.
Correct.
Okay.
Quick break, but a lot more to cover in the second hour of the Financial Exchange. We'll be right back, folks. Markets have evened up for the day, so we'll be covering that next. Retirement planning is complicated enough without having a formal budget to help you maintain your lifestyle during your later years. This is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Our new guide called How to Build a Retirement Budget was written specifically for this purpose. Our goal is to help take your financial concerns out of your retirement years. There are numerous issues to deal with when creating a retirement budget. Everything from understanding where your income will come from, to setting up a proper withdrawal strategy, to being able to remain flexible as market conditions change. This new guide offers structure structural guidance that may alleviate the pressures of creating your budget. You can request your copy right now by calling 800-393-4001 and ask for our new guide today. Once again, that number, 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
Sometimes we know what's next. Other times, it's impossible to know. Life can change in an instant. Don't be caught standing by the next time someone's heart stops. Knowing CPR gives you the ability to act and takes you from bystander to lifesaver. CPR is a life-saving skill. Join the nation of lifesavers today by learning CPR at heart.org/nation. National support for CPR education provided by Elevance Health Foundation.
New Englanders love the Caribbean, and now there's a Caribbean travel channel available for you to learn all about Caribbean culture while you're planning your next trip to your favorite island. The TravelShareIt.com marketplace is loaded with information about the arts, festivals, food, and music throughout the Caribbean, and is an interactive website featuring daily travel deals to any island of your choice. Book your next Caribbean vacation on the most comprehensive travel channel for the islands, TravelShareIt.com. That's TravelShareIt.com. This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275 CM FM, Concord, Boston. The Money Matters Radio Network.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We focus on the people returning from service, not their specific illness or injury. Our number one goal is to make sure our veterans have the necessary services they need, be it physical, emotional, or financial, so that their transition can be seamless. You can help our great American heroes as well by making a donation today by visiting dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you from Senior Care USA. The average funeral now costs over $10,000. That leaves your loved ones the burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay your family up to $30,000 to help pay for your funeral and other expenses. There are no medical exams. Your rates will never increase, and your plan cannot be canceled, regardless of your medical conditions, as long as you make your premium payments. Get up to $30,000 in final expense insurance. Call now for free information. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. That's 800-378-3818. Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
Consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations, the United States Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next vacation. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway, a long weekend with friends, or a family vacation, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John have everything you need to enjoy that special time away from home. Take advantage of a variety of incredible promotions that are available right now. Go to visitusvi.com/promotions, where you'll find the details about all of these amazing experiences, including a stay at the Divi Carina Bay all-inclusive beach resort and casino on St. Croix. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Don't miss your chance to enjoy America's Caribbean paradise, the United States Virgin Islands. Head to visitusvi.com/promotions for more information and to book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com/promotions.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutsky from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange quick tip of the day. And today we're talking about your brand new guide, Todd, how to leave assets to your beneficiaries. Todd, why can't you just add your kids to your accounts or to your house deed?
Well, you can. It's just not a good idea. So people who do that understand with an account, right? You can put a joint name on the account. Now, that doesn't actually complete the gift because you actually have to take the money out and then the gift is complete. But when you set it up, yeah, the asset would avoid probate. But if something happens to the child, it's going to be, available. Half the asset would be subject to the children's creditor. So you don't want that. And secondly, if you only put one kid on the deed, you've likely disinherited the other kids. So it's not really good planning overall. Whereas if you put the house in the kid's name, now you've actually made a completed gift of half the house and would need to file a gift tax return. Number one. Number two, of course, it's exposed to the child's creditors and, yes, divorces. You could find yourself at some point owning half your house with an ex-in-law. Not sure that's a good way to plan. So please, put together trusts. Don't just throw names on deeds or on bank accounts because, as I always like to say, nothing good comes from giving assets away while you're living.
The estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have been helping families like yours for more than 30 years, and they've written a brand new guide called How to Leave Assets to Your Beneficiaries. To get your free copy of this comprehensive guide that will help you determine the best way to leave assets to your family, simply call 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699, or you can request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Mike Armstrong and Marc Fandetti. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Mike Armstrong and Marc Fandetti.
Good morning. Happy April Fool's Day. It is the day before the rollout of a wide range of tariffs that have been hinted at, alluded to, and apparently finalized by the Trump administration, but not rolled out. That's what he said yesterday.
Yeah, sure.
Not yet rolled out. That will be happening tomorrow, Liberation Day, as it's being called. Roughly 20% tariffs on most imports, according to some reports. That's reporting from the Washington Post. Roughly 20% on most imports. They cited 3 people familiar with the matter, which, again, if we're going to rely on reporting that's been done previously around the tariffs, this is probably way off base and could be completely different tomorrow. So I think take any of this with a grain of salt when it comes to this country-by-country reciprocal tariff approach that is being discussed here. Nonetheless, that is what we will learn about tomorrow. This morning at 10 a.m., we received a job openings labor turnover survey, the JOLTS report that was released by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Sometimes this can indicate things to worry about when it comes to the labor market or worry about when it comes to inflation predictions. Didn't really do much of that today. It was a status quo report, little change going on in the state of hirings, firings, and job openings in the economy. Is that a fair way to describe it so far, Mark?
Stable.
Taking a look at markets in early trading thus far, we started the day once again in negative territory and have moved back to positive gains on large swaths of U.S. equities. The NASDAQ currently up 95 points, or a little bit more than 0.5%. The S&P 500 up 13 points, about 1/4%, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average is flat for the day. European markets actually finished strongly in positive territory. The DAX up 1.4%, or maybe they're still, no, I don't think they're still trading today. But yeah, it's 11 a.m. What time is it in Europe?
Mike, nobody cares.
Yeah, what are we doing here?
You don't care?
No one cares.
We're about to announce massive tariffs on all of the European Union. Nobody cares what European stocks are doing?
Nope.
Fine.
Absolutely
U.S.
not.
10-year Treasury down to 4.167%. Pretty significant move there. Oil, which was up significantly yesterday, flat today. Anything else catching your eyes in markets, Mark and Tucker, since you're apparently uninterested in what foreign equities are doing?
No. Let's talk about the best performers on the German DAX.
Which, by the way, have significantly outperformed every single U.S. benchmark
Yeah, it's
this
an Uber year.
Yeah. So following along the tariff talk, let's talk
Actually,
about
that
the
phrase
ones
makes no
that
sense.
we in Uber year.
Makes no sense.
A year for
a year above. No, German's a complicated language. I'd have to explain it to you.
Taking a look here at tariffs that we do know exist already and are going into place tomorrow as well. Those would be those surrounding automakers, and specifically any autos that are built anywhere outside the United States. And there's a piece in Bloomberg about Ford being as American as apple pie, or is that Honda? And he raises this question not because there's any confusion about where those companies are actually headquartered or where the majority of their employees are, but really commentary coming from trade advisor Peter Navarro when he was asked about American automakers, and what he said. So the first thing that's really important to understand is that the big three so-called American companies, GM, Ford, Stellantis, they're not really American companies. What on earth does he mean by that? Now, Stellantis is not. They are not a U.S.-based company.
This guy needs to be sent on vacation.
They are a company headquartered in the Netherlands. But as far as I'm aware, General Motors and Ford are American companies in every way that you could possibly describe them.
The problem with this kind of tariff policy, and I'm putting policy in gigantic quotes here, is the hair splitting that you start to do when you don't have clarity that you pointed out you wanted, Mike, at the start of the last hour, when you don't have clarity from the very beginning. We're all scrambling. This hurts in the long run economic growth because it makes investment costlier. All of this uncertainty, and that's a very vague term that gets thrown around carelessly, but uncertainty is manifested in, and I'm gesturing here for those of you watching up to our Bloomberg screen, looking at financial market gyrations day to day, uncertainty in surveys from managers who tell us they're not making investments that they otherwise would, they're holding off. All of this stuff makes it more expensive to invest and is a drag on economic growth. We desperately need clarity.
So, one, I just think the comments from Peter Navarro here are not useful. I don't know what makes a company American if they are, other than being headquartered in the United States and employing the majority of their employees in the United States. That sounds pretty American to me. But I think his point is one that everyone has come to realize just over the last few months, which is even American auto manufacturers like GM and Ford manufacture a significant portion of their vehicles overseas. They source a lot of their parts overseas.
It's Mexico, Canada, though, Mike. We've been integrating these markets for 30 years. People have been making investment decisions predicated on that relative certainty that they would be able to import without hindrance because that's what NAFTA provided for. It was a great stabilizing force, and now
this year we threw it out the window.
We're upending that, and we haven't. That's how. If people think that the current arrangement is not satisfactory, for whatever reason, that is a political decision. But you've got to introduce something in its place where the rules are clear. We may not like them, but the rules should be clear and stable. And we clearly do not have that right now. Our quarrel is not with tariffs per se, I think, as you've already said, Mike. It's with the haphazard, helter-skelter, on-off rollout. I mean, up to the last minute here, we have no certainty. It's like these people like torturing us.
So... Look, I keep going back to a few things. One, it is still early days, and perhaps that clarity is coming. But let's say that it doesn't. I want to address why that matters, why uncertainty around the rule of law is such a threat to this. Because, and I don't
that's
mean
a good way to put
rule
it.
of law, right?
No, I think that's a good way to put it, Mike. This is about rules and rule of law, though.
Like, we have rule of law. You can still file, it's not... It's not doing business in China, okay? Like, it's not going there and then finding
China
out
has a lot more
that,
certainty right now.
It's not going to China and finding out that, the government doesn't like me, and so they have told all of their government agencies to basically root me out of the country. There are means of recourse in the United States. There's still rule of law. But this degradation of certainty around the rules of the road, were it to continue... I think completely upends the idea of what has made America an attractive place to invest.
This is the art of the deal, though, Mike. Trump believes this deeply in his being. Keep people guessing, remain the center of attention, throw your opponent. It's sort of like his judo.
Yep.
I think this is what we're in for because this has worked for him in other domains. Mm-hmm. This is, I'll again call it the art of the deal. I didn't read the book, though. It was on my family's bookshelf for a long time. I didn't read it. But as I understand it, this is part of his judo. So... the question is, are we willing to, for how long are the political gains, whatever those are, and I don't mean for him and his party, I mean for all of us, are they enough to compensate for the increased cost of investment that this uncertainty imposes?
And I think the answer to me is the only chance that it becomes a good trade-off is if there is ultimately, and I think we will get here, but if there is ultimately some clarity around what is the end game.
That's not part of the art of the deal, Mike. You keep them guessing as to the end game. You don't want them to know what your objectives are. Apply the psychology you use when buying a car, where you're perfectly willing to walk away. At least I am. And I'll walk away at the last minute when it seems like the deal is almost done, just to get a marginal benefit from it. That's the mentality that this regime, and I don't mean that negatively, it's just a description of a group of people. The last group was a regime too. That's their mentality. Keep everybody guessing until the last minute and even after the last minute. That works, I think, when you're buying and selling buildings in Midtown Manhattan. Maybe. I'm not sure that works when you're managing the world's biggest, most advanced, sophisticated economy. I'm just not sure that the art of the deal works in the trade domain. I guess we'll find out. But we don't know what the objective is. So how do we even measure it?
Good question. Well,
I'm asking a lot of questions.
I think my answer of how we measure it is the ways in which we said we were going to measure it before we had President Trump in the White House after his election. Right, we set forth a number of things that I think most Americans would agree are important when it comes to the economy, and we judge based on that. Right, what's the unemployment rate 4 years from now? What's the rate of inflation? What is home ownership rates? What are the number of pages? What was the obscure one you came up with?
Pages in the Federal
Register. Yeah.
He'll get those down because he can. That's relatively straightforward.
Government deficits, are they higher or lower? Are taxes higher or lower 4 years from now? These are the things that I think we don't lose sight of when trying to judge all of these things, because in the moment they're scary. Stock markets are selling off. People are worried about their jobs, and I think our job is to kind of keep the focus on, okay, well, what is the actual true result?
That's really hard to do day to day. Number one, the frequency of these data series doesn't conform to that daily tallying timetable.
Nope.
So unless we want to go on once a year and do a report card, which maybe you do a once a year, how's our government doing, Congress and the president and our governor, and right on down the line. That's just very hard to do with macroeconomic time series because, as we were talking about before the show, GDP and other time series that we use to gauge economic health, they really weren't made for the purposes for which they're employed today. Remember, you asked me before the show.
Yep.
You brought up that point before the show. About
I did.
Why are you acting like we didn't talk before the show?
I'm just digesting it all. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to digest things, and then we're going to be doing trivia next year on the Financial Exchange.
Find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange on our YouTube page. Like us on YouTube and get caught up on anything and everything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations, the United States Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next vacation. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway, a long weekend with friends, or a family vacation, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John have everything you need to enjoy that special time away from home. Take advantage of a variety of incredible promotions that are available right now. Go to visitusvi.com/promotions, where you'll find the details about all of these amazing experiences, including a stay at the Divi Carina Bay all-inclusive beach resort and casino on St. Croix. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Don't miss your chance to enjoy America's Caribbean paradise, the United States Virgin Islands. Head to visitusvi.com/promotions for more information and to book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com/promotions.
One of the keys to enjoying a peaceful retirement is flexibility. Hi, this is Chuck Zada from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Today, retirement planning involves lots of possible changes and challenges given all of the external factors that may affect your goals. So creating a budget for your retirement is vital to financial stability. Retirement comes with a number of monetary considerations, from how much money you'll need every month to managing your existing investments through market volatility. Our new guide is called How to Build a Retirement Budget, and it will offer a variety of options for your consideration that may lessen your risks when it comes to your planning. Call right now at 800-393-4001 and ask for our new guide today. That's 800-393-4001, or request it online from our website, armstrongadvisory.com. That's armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Beneficiary planning and asset protection go hand in hand. Cushing & Dolan has a new guide out called How to Leave Assets to Beneficiaries, and it can help make your planning process smooth and easy. Leaving your assets to your children isn't as simple as it sounds, especially if they have problems of their own. If you're retired or nearing retirement, it's time to consider the best way to keep your assets in your family while avoiding significant financial consequences down the road. Call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and get their new guide called How to Leave Assets to Beneficiaries. You'll learn which paths are the safest when it comes to protecting yourself and your children while avoiding unnecessary risks that can create substantial problems in the long run. That number again is 866-848-5699. Or you can request it online from our website, LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Let's talk LDL. AKA bad cholesterol. The higher your LDL cholesterol, the higher your risk of a heart attack or stroke. Your health matters. Know your number. Talk to your doctor and get your cholesterol checked. And learn how to help lower your LDL bad cholesterol. Because your health is in your hands. Find out more at heart.org/LDL.
Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women,
taking the lives of 1 in 3.
That's more than all forms of cancer combined.
For too long, heart disease and stroke have taken the lives of the women we love.
But we're not giving up because we have something better,
stronger, more powerful.
We have each other.
When we come together and go red,
the more power we have against our greatest health threat.
Visit GoRedForWomen.org today to learn more.
Missed one of our shows? Catch up anytime by asking your Alexa smart speaker to play the Financial Exchange. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts, and you can register right now for this year's 5K at Castle Island by visiting dav5k.boston. The event will sell out again, so if you're interested in participating, now's the time to reserve your spot. Come out and help support our great American heroes by joining us for the DAV 5K. Visit dav5k.boston to register or to make a donation today. That's dav5k.boston. Time for trivia now here on the Financial Exchange. And on this day, back in 1991, the U.S. raised the minimum wage from $3.80 an hour to $4.25 an hour. Trivia question today: what is the federal minimum wage right now? Once again, what is the federal minimum wage right now? Be the fourth person today to text us at 617-362-1385 with the correct answer, and you win a brand new Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Once again, the fourth correct response to text us at 617-362-1385 will get that t-shirt. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
Mark, you mentioned something to me over the break, so I started Googling it, and I want to talk about municipal bonds and their tax treatment really quickly. So for listeners out there that are not familiar, muni bonds are generally considered what we call triple tax-free. They're the only types of bonds out there that are treated this way, unless I'm missing something, but they are triple tax-free because they are. Well, let's start with the basics. They are issued by a municipality or a state government. So if you are the biggest city in New England, Boston, and you need to raise money for a new sewer project that you're doing, you collect some of the money from taxes. You also might borrow a bunch of the money to get the job done and then pay those bonds out over time. And so you raise a bunch of money. People buy those bonds. You pay interest on those bonds. And the nice thing for the people that hold those bonds is they pay no taxes to the federal government because the federal government doesn't have the authority to tax it. If you live in the state of Massachusetts, you also pay no state income taxes on the interest due on those bonds. And so assuming you get paid both your interest and your principal back, there can be some big tax savings, and it can make the bonds quite attractive compared to, say, loaning the government to the United States government, which might pay a similar interest rate, but you still owe federal income taxes on that interest. Triple comes in here. I kind of screwed up here. I should have done New York City instead because they actually have a city income tax, which is why it's considered triple tax-free. So if you did the same story in New York City on Manhattan, that sewer project, then the bond that's issued there would avoid the federal income tax, the state of New York income tax, as well as the city of New York income tax. So it's that triple tax-free treatment there. As you can imagine, where this is most appealing is the higher income earners out there. So if you are in the city of Boston, you live there, or if you live in Massachusetts and you earn $10 million, for example, then you're getting a big chunk of your income, if you're an employee, taxed at 37%, plus 5% to the state, plus another 4% for the millionaire's tax, and that adds up. You're suddenly sitting there at 46% income taxes and saying, wow, if I go loan money to Coca-Cola, I'm going to pay almost half of that out in taxes, so those munis look attractive. There are rumors going around, and I haven't really seen any of this confirmed, but it was reported in Kiplinger 5 days ago, that Congress, in order to explore different ways to cut taxes, because they're under budgetary constraints, are looking at different ways that they can make up that revenue shortfall once they go and cut overall tax rates.
But how do you, so the intergovernmental tax immunity, I think that's the principle here. This is as old as the Republic. It came down in a Supreme Court decision very early on. Maybe it was, Marbury v. Madison. I don't remember which, but it was John Marshall, second Chief Justice, who wrote the opinion. Famous. How do you get around the fact that the Supreme Court said that, well, the power to tax is the power to destroy? Maybe this is a Lutnick question. How do you get? Didn't the Supreme Court say a long time ago, and subsequent courts have upheld the precedent that governments can't tax one another?
Right.
Are there any exceptions? Maybe I should put the question this way, Mike. Are there any exceptions now, like alternative minimum tax exceptions at the federal level that you know of or that you've run into in your extensive practice to the general principle that the feds can't tax state bond interest? Maybe I know I'm putting you on the spot here.
I don't know.
Okay, so for all, your perspective is pretty broad and long term. So if you've not seen it,
I don't think so.
It's probably rare if you haven't seen it. I think that's a safe statement.
And likewise, the state of Massachusetts cannot tax the interest that the federal government pays on Treasury debt. There is precedent there, right? Like if I live in Massachusetts, I might have to pay federal taxes on my U.S. Treasury bonds, but the state of Massachusetts
intergovernmental tax
can't
community.
tax
Right,
me
right.
precisely.
It goes both ways.
So in any case that is apparently being looked at, the federal government foregoes anywhere between 32 and 42 billion annually in estimated revenue due to muni bond interest. It is a question: would this be constitutional?
Sorry,
or
it was
not?
McCulloch v. Maryland. I'm an idiot. I should never start quoting cases because I don't know what I'm talking about. Pardon me. But anyway, it is a bedrock principle of our law.
In any case, as you mentioned, some munis. Did you say that munis had taken a bit of a hit over the last week or so? Seemingly, maybe in response
my
to
little
this?
exactly.
Yeah.
My little sample shows a dip that's not really. I saw long-term interest rates coming down. I would have expected municipal bond funds, which tend to be longer duration, or at least some of them, depends on the design. I would have expected them to benefit, but they haven't.
I think unlikely to happen, but nonetheless, I mean, this would be a massive change to the tax code. And the idea is obviously, hey, we're targeting high-income earners in high-income tax states is where you're predominantly going to hit people, right? California, New York, Massachusetts. But, certainly if you're making $50 million in Texas, the idea of buying muni bonds is attractive to you too because of that federal income tax alone. So I'll be interested to see if this gains any traction. It's strange to hear about a tax increase coming from Republicans like this because it is a direct hit if it were to go through and if it's actually confirmed at the highest income earning Americans out there.
Why cut or keep top marginal rates, but then eliminate the exception? There's probably a lot of overlap.
It's fascinating to see this stuff developing. Quick break. We're gonna have the trivia winner when we come back, and then a bit about IPO markets coming up next.
Bringing the latest financial news straight to your radio every day. It's the Financial Exchange on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations, the United States Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next vacation. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway, a long weekend with friends, or a family vacation, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John have everything you need to enjoy that special time away from home. Take advantage of a variety of incredible promotions that are available right now. Go to visitusvi.com/promotions, where you'll find the details about all of these amazing experiences, including a stay at the Divi Carina Bay all-inclusive beach resort and casino on St. Croix. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Don't miss your chance to enjoy America's Caribbean paradise, the United States Virgin Islands. Head to visitusvi.com/promotions for more information and to book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com/promotions.
Did you outgrow your timeshare and now you want out? But you can't. You can't sell it, and you can't get out of the contract. Imagine trying to get out of your mortgage. That's what a timeshare is. You can't just call up the bank and say, I don't want to pay it anymore. But we may be able to help you do just that. Listen, a timeshare maybe for you once was a great thing, but now you don't use it much. And they are not easy to get rid of. Plus, you do have to pay for it every month. Qualified timeshare owners can get out of their contract legally and permanently without ruining your credit or even filing bankruptcy. And imagine no more mortgage payment or fees. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline qualification line now. It's free to learn more.
800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. That's 800-455-7967. Paid for by Timeshare Defense.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
Hi, I'm Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts provides thousands of hours of voluntary services at our VA medical centers and soldiers' homes and is the only DAV department in the country to lead a veterans housing initiative for both single veterans and those with families. These programs are critical to serving our veterans in their time of need. You can help our great American heroes by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Hi, it's Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we have a guide available this month titled How to Build a Retirement Budget. Mike, one of the issues that we've seen for retirees in the last several years is significantly higher home insurance premiums and property taxes going up as well. How do people attempt to navigate this but still stay within the budget they had laid out for themselves?
Yeah, look, the cost of home ownership, I don't think this is a surprise to anyone. Whether you are buying a home for the first time or you are just seeing those insurance and tax rates that you mentioned going up, it is really impossible to avoid. And I think that's where that flexibility in the budget comes in and needs to be recognized. Because, for instance, you might have factored in a huge cost savings by moving to Florida a decade ago.
Sure.
A lot of that has been eaten up over the course of the last several years. And so you have to have a budget that can evolve with your lifestyle over time.
How often do you review that budget?
You know, I think it's important to at least get a grasp on it once a year. And you can really see costs fluctuate a lot during those periods of time. But those flexibility points are really important because you have to account for inflation, and different things inflate at different rates. So, for example, you might see that your costs of healthcare rise dramatically in your later years, both because you need more of it and because healthcare costs inflate faster than other types of costs. And you have to build those into the budget, even though you might be paying nothing for them today.
This month, our guide is titled How to Build a Retirement Budget, and the way to request it is by calling 800-393-4001. The guide again is How to Build a Retirement Budget, and the number to call is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. The Financial Exchange streams live on YouTube. Like our page and stay up to date on breaking business news all morning long. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
All right, trivia questions today was, what is the federal minimum wage right now? That'd be $7.25. Mac from Meredith, New Hampshire is our winner today, taking home a brand new Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Congrats to Mac, and we play trivia every day here on the Financial Exchange. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
There's a piece today in Barron's about the IPO market being another casualty of just declining appetite for risk that we are seeing here. And they basically speak to the fact that, you know, in 2021, 311 companies were listed, whether it was through IPOs or SPACs or any number of means of going public. And that number has been dramatically down in 2025. And they point to the CoreWeave IPO as being a recent failure there that speaks to the overall initial public offering market. And I think I would offer a different opinion there. And not to say that there is a risk-off appetite right now. We are clearly seeing that. But just yesterday, we had another IPO, very different than CoreWeave. Newsmax IPO'd yesterday and shot up 700% if anybody missed it. To be clear, these are like comparing apples and orangutans. Like, the CoreWeave IPO raised $1.5 billion. The Newsmax IPO raised $75 million. So, like, we're talking about completely different things here. But I think that there might be some danger in saying, hey, all IPOs are going to go off poorly here, and this is just an issue with risk appetite right now. I think there could be a read here with CoreWeave specifically that, hey, there isn't a risk story here. There's an AI story here, and investors are not so much worried about IPOs generally, but more specifically related to any company's attached to the artificial intelligence space and the kind of absurd valuations and promises that have been made on that industry over the last few years.
Yeah, I don't know if you can generalize. The IPO count has been paltry, really just a trickle since COVID. And in the years before COVID, IPOs, as compared to, say, the very heady days of the 1990s, and this comes from the website of Jay Ritter, who's quoted in this article very helpfully. He publishes his work publicly, or at least some of it. In the 90s, you routinely had a few to several hundred IPOs a year. That shrank to under 100 in the early 2000s, picked up again to a couple hundred, but never recovered to the levels of the 1990s, probably not surprisingly. Even in the 2010s. Okay, I'm making a long story unnecessarily.
No, I want to dig in here, actually, Mark,
okay,
because
I feel like I'm
you're right. There are way fewer publicly traded companies today.
So there's this trend too. The question is, are you still on the trend line? And for lots of different reasons, there are fewer publicly traded companies, half as many or fewer than half as many as there were during the 1990s. Part of that is the amount of capital flowing to so-called private equity, which is exactly what it sounds like. We can talk more about PE at some point. Chuck and I think, talked about it last week. But there's this long-term trend here, too. So it's what we're seeing here is consistent with the long-term trend.
Yeah, and the long-term trend, to be clear, is an industry that has now allowed for companies to operate efficiently while private without accessing public markets. And that trend has been towards private equity, because as a private company like Uber was, for example, for a way longer time than you probably would have been in the 90s, they were able to continually raise cash through private offerings, through private equity firms, without needing to tap and access those public markets until a much later point in their maturity. And that seems to be a trend that we've been seeing, I think, since the 1990s of, hey, are there ways in which we can run as a private company efficiently and effectively without needing to deal with the IPO, without needing to deal with quarterly filings with the SEC and the compliance with all of this that goes along with it? And I don't know if that is a trend because of the burdens and compliance of being a publicly traded company, or if it's a trend because of a lot more money being in private equity these days than compared to the 1990s. I don't have an answer there. I don't know if you have a theory, but it's probably a combination of both. And either way, it's the status quo now.
I'm looking at years using Ritter's data here, which is available online if you're interested, when IPOs perked up. And they are usually a few to several years after some economic turmoil, which is when commitments to private equity made by pension funds and college endowments and foundations, they typically slow in bad economic times when stocks go down. Why is not important, but if I took a minute to explain it, it would make perfect sense. So firms have to tap the IPO market to unlock gains and to access to unlock realized value for shareholders and to access capital. You're seeing that happen according to this Ritter data set exactly as when you would expect it to. I mangled that sentence, but you know what I mean. But there is an unavoidable long-term downtrend that's probably attributable to increased access to private equity.
Consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations, the United States Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next vacation. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway, a long weekend with friends, or family vacation, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John have everything you need to enjoy that special time away from home. Take advantage of a variety of incredible promotions that are available right now. Go to visitusvi.com/promotions, where you'll find details about all of these amazing experiences, including a stay at the Divi Carina Bay all-inclusive beach resort and casino on St. Croix. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Don't miss your chance to enjoy America's Caribbean paradise, the United States Virgin Islands. Head to visitusvi.com/promotions for more information and to book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com/promotions.
I keep seeing this printed, so I have to go and address it. A piece today, how eliminating property taxes in Florida could affect the state's real estate market. I'm trying to think of a good analogy to this here, but there is more than one proposal out there right now to eliminate the state of Florida's property taxes because, as anyone who owns property in Florida know, it's gotten pretty burdensomely expensive to do so. Between insurance costs, multiple hurricanes over the last few years, and now property taxes going up, it's become pretty darn expensive to live there. And so the proposals that are out there are just, well, let's just do away with the property taxes and we'll solve homeowners' problems without addressing how you pay firefighters.
Sounds like a Florida solution. Easy, Mike Bottle deposits.
There's been literally no conversation of, and we're going to replace that with a sales tax, an income tax, or some other piece of revenue. Like, does anyone look at Florida?
The speed limits down there are going to be 5 miles an hour.
That's the 5 miles an hour speed limit.
That's
and just
their sole source of revenue.
Tickets.
Traffic tickets.
It's easy to joke about this stuff, but I don't understand how nobody is coming up and saying, well, yeah, this is a great idea, but where's the money going to come from, Bob? Nobody looks at Florida as a...
Chill out.
Nobody looks at Florida as
You're going to be like a Floridian here.
As a, horribly inefficiently run government. There's plenty of criticisms, I think, of the Florida government, but does anybody look at it and say, oh, look at all that waste compared to a place like New York? Look at the unfunded pension liabilities and horribly run system of governance there when it comes to spending. I think generally the answer is no when it comes to Florida.
Does Florida have a good or bad reputation when it comes to services and schools?
No, bad.
I don't know. Bad? That wasn't sarcastic. I know it's hard it's hard to tell.
They don't have the worst school systems out there. Right. That's not.
You don't move down to Florida for the schools.
No, generally speaking, no. But in any case, this conversation about property taxes is a totally fine one to have, and I would like my property taxes to go down, but unless you're just going to say, hey, and by the way, all police and firefighters are laid off and all teachers are laid off too. It's just a silly conversation to even be having.
Is being mathematically illiterate, has that become a requirement to run for office? Something's changed in the last, 20, 30 years. Our leaders are unusually stupid, mathematically speaking. They can't just do the basics.
I don't even understand how it's a conversation that people are seriously entertaining. Without, again, you can seriously entertain the conversation. That's fine. But where's the money coming from?
It's going to cost $2,500 to register your Chihuahua with the town. Hey, good news, no property taxes. Bad news, we got to get rid of a few of the dogs. I don't know why I use that accent. And not everybody's from the Panhandle.
I just, it's a mystery wrapped in a conundrum.
We're not on in Florida, right?
We are. You can stream us from anywhere in the world, Mark. So hopefully we're on in
Tucker,
Florida.
edit that out, or yeah.
I know they stream us in Europe because they were very glued to the market update from earlier this hour.
Wow, just trashing on my market update.
Yeah. How is the DAX doing, Mike? Where'd the DAX close?
Well, let's take a quick break. When we come back, Mark and Tucker can come carve into my market updates a little bit further here. I'll be spending all the next segment talking about European stocks.
No, we won't,
in, folks.
Miss any of the show? Catch up at your convenience by visiting financialexchangeshow.com and clicking the on-demand icon where you'll find all of our interviews and full shows. This is your home for the latest business and financial news in New England and around the country. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Retirement planning is complicated enough without having a formal budget to help you maintain your lifestyle during your later years. This is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Our new guide called How to Build a Retirement Budget was written specifically for this purpose. Our goal is to help take your financial concerns out of your retirement years. There are numerous issues to deal with when creating a retirement budget. Everything from understanding where your income will come from, to setting up a proper withdrawal strategy, to being able to remain flexible as market conditions change. This new guide offers structural guidance that may alleviate the pressures of creating your budget. You can request your copy right now by calling 800-393-4001 and ask for our new guide today. Once again, that number, 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Leaving assets to your beneficiaries is a critical piece of any estate plan. Cushing & Dolan, the experts in elder law, has written a new guide that may help ensure that your assets are protected for years to come, while helping you avoid unnecessary mistakes during your planning. As an example, the new federal estate tax exemption is nearly $14 million. That could lead to a larger inheritance for your family members, but still raises concerns. There are several strategies in this new guide that will help you learn how to make the right decisions about your distributions at the right time. Cushing & Dolan have been helping New England families for more than 30 years. Let them help you, too. Call 866-848-5699 and get their brand new guide called How to Leave Assets to Beneficiaries. That number again is 866-848-5699. Or you can request the guide online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations, the United States Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next vacation. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway, a long weekend with friends, or a family vacation, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John have everything you need to enjoy that special time away from home. Take advantage of a variety of incredible promotions that are available right now. Go to visitusvi.com/promotions, where you'll find the details about all of these amazing experiences, including a stay at the Divi Carina Bay all-inclusive beach resort and casino on St. Croix. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Don't miss your chance to enjoy America's Caribbean paradise, the United States Virgin Islands. Head to visitusvi.com/promotions for more information and to book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com/promotions.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
Heads up, athletes, coaches, and parents. Play for life, not just points. Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, or HCM, is the leading cause of sudden cardiac death, especially in black athletes in sports like football or basketball. If you feel shortness of breath, chest pain, and fatigue, or have a family history of HCM, talk to your doctor. Don't let HCM bench you for good. Learn how to stay in the game at heart.org/HCM student athlete. Your heart, your health, your move.
The Financial Exchange Show podcast drops every day on Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Hit that subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. You're listening to the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Catherine Edwards from Bloomberg has a column piece in the page today about the coming recession and being self-inflicted. And she makes a point about, the administration being very public about their goals for tariffs and the potential result, which they have themselves acknowledged the possibility of recession. And I found that incredibly surprising to see from this administration, because I can't think of any single president out there who said, yeah, as a result of my policies, we might get a recession, but it'll be worth it in the long term. And that's been the message. There's one thing that she kind of miscategorizes in my mind, though, which is that we haven't seen prior recessions in the modern era as a direct result of government policy. And I have to say, the one in 2020 was exactly that.
Probably not counting that because it was so unusual.
It was incredibly unusual.
But she does. It is true, though. The Fed has induced most recessions in the post-war era.
Yeah, the Fed, not the
Federal Reserve.
Executive,
By tightening monetary.
Branch.
Typically, economy gets to the usual cycle. As I know you know this, Mike. Economy gets too hot. Fed takes away the punch bowl. That's a colorful way of saying they tighten the money. They raise interest rates by tightening the money supply. That causes demand to contract. You get a recession. Then they start to ease. That is the conventional macroeconomic, so to speak, explanation for most of the post-war recessions. A couple in the 70s, though, you might blame on oil price increases. That's kind of the consensus among
But in
researchers.
either case, None prior to 2020 that I can think of.
None in the history of the world. No one's ever told, let's induce a recession, but then come out of it stronger.
Yeah.
Well, I think Stalin actually tried that. Ended up killing a lot of people. I'm not saying that these folks want to kill a lot of people. I'm just saying that it's reminiscent of the harebrained schemes, and I'm not calling these schemes harebrained, although I'm analogizing them to harebrained, harebrained historical schemes of inducing a lot of pain. In that, like, we're not losing weight here. We're not trying to shrink a tumor, pardon the analogy, where you tolerate the pain because the benefits are probable. You don't know how far a recession's going to run. You don't know what other ugliness it's going to let out of Pandora's box. Yeah. You do not want to induce a recession.
That is the multi-trillion-dollar question in my mind, which is if data, markets, and everything else actually begins a genuine downturn. Because make no mistake, what we've seen in markets thus far and what we've seen in economic downturn, in economic data thus far, I don't think anyone can accurately describe as a significant pullback.
No, but it's pretty
Equity
broad, though,
markets
Mike. It's broad and it's all in the same direction.
Agreed.
I know,
and that's the question that I have is, will it reach a point where this if it does get bad, which it hasn't yet, but if it does get bad, let's say equity markets sell off by 30% and unemployment climbs to 5%, is that going to cause this government to dig in or reverse course on tariffs? And I don't have an answer.
Mike, we're not turning the burner down on the stove a little bit here to prevent the pot from boiling or to achieve a desired temperature. The economy does not work like that. The relationships are way too complex. You can't always connect cause and effect. You might be unleashing something here that nobody can control. I would never tempt fate by provoking a recession or saying, I didn't care about it, or I don't care if car prices go up. Those were just offhanded remarks, not well thought out policy. But you don't know what kind of forces you're unleashing.
What do you have for us, Mark?
On the same topic, this idea of demand being pulled forward by the threat of tariffs. The Wall Street Journal has an article today. Trump tariff threat mobilizes car shoppers. And I know we've reported on this before, and you've all heard it from one source or another. But early results suggest, for example, Hyundai Motor, retail sales surging 15% in March. Ford, retail sales jumping 19% in March. And there are other examples in this Wall Street Journal piece today. The question is, what comes next? A big letdown in durables. Cars are durable goods. Even if the threat of tariffs does not materialize or they're only imposed for a short period of time, the damage, and that's almost too strong a word because we don't know the long-term impact yet, but the damage may have already been done by the uncertainty that this fitful tariff policy has wrought.
There's an April Fool's joke out there from Boston Uncovered, which took me an entire reading of the article to confirm was an April Fool's joke. So don't fall for it. The MBTA is, in fact, not rolling out a South Station to New York City no-stop train that would have daily tickets available for $32 a piece.
Where does this joke come from?
Boston Uncovered.
I don't understand the point of doing these jokes. Like whether
that's
I see
also
it,
not a funny joke.
It's all over Instagram. All these companies are making their cute things. New seltzers coming out, new beer or whatever, or new outfit, like whatever.
So
like,
my wife
stop.
My wife
Nobody thinks they're funny. So just stop doing it.
I thought this one was a little bit funny. So my wife subscribes. Have you guys ever heard of Les Mills?
Yes. I don't know.
It's a workout thing. It's like an online workout subscription. They have an app on your TV, and you can do yoga and all sorts of different workouts. And my wife has subscribed to it for a few years. I hope I'm not calling her out on anything that people don't know. It's based out of Australia, and it's just a bunch of Aussies and New Zealanders leading workouts. And their April Fool's prank was that they are changing their pronunciation to Les Milles and relocating to Paris.
It's not funny, though. I'm sorry. It's just not funny. I got a text from my wife who thought that the concert that we booked was moving to Gillette Stadium.
From where?
From, like, our town. It's like, why is that funny? So now you got to waste my time answering my wife to tell her it's an April Fool's joke because she thought it was for real?
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it. There's no benefit. Ha-ha. Neat.
Tucker's in a bad mood today.
I'm not.
Tucker is unhappy about April Fool's Day.
I can't stand April Fools. Can't stand it.
Oh, I love April Fool's Day. My kids love April Fool's Day. It's my mother's birthday.
Well, it's different if it's kids. Like, fine, it's kids. But, like, for adults, like, why, as a company, do you need to play a joke on your consumers?
Yeah.
I don't find it funny.
Yeah, I don't really find the corporate April Fool's pranks terribly funny.
It's all I'm seeing today.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
So
I got one. I'm
annoying.
not buying any of your stuff. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah, like, jeez.
U.S. markets have made a sharp turn positive for the day. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 30 points, closing in on 0.1% upwards. The S&P 500 up 21 points, or a little bit more than 1/3%. The Nasdaq up 140 points, or 0.8%, and even the Russell 2000 closing in on a 40 basis point gain for the day. Yield on the 10-year continuing sharply downward, which I find very interesting. You have equities up as well as bonds up. Yield on the 10-year now sitting at 4.15. You'll start to feel that on mortgage rates if it continues. We will be back tomorrow, and it is a big day tomorrow as the White House is reportedly considering 20% tariffs on most imports. We'll be covering it all live here on the Financial Exchange tomorrow.